All right, thank you for being patient with us here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we begin our meeting on the following statement, and happy Valentine's Day, by the way. Adequate notice of the February the 14th, 2013 meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting written notice and agenda of this meeting on the bulletin board in the Municipal Building, 1000 Route 10, Whippany, Township of Hanover, by hand delivering, mailing, or faxing such notice and agenda to the following newspapers and the Star Ledger, and by filing same with the Township Clerk. I have a roll call.
Mr. Schleifer.
Here.
Mr. Firmaska.
Here.
Mr. Bruno.
Isn't that cute?
Here.
Mr. Pola.
Here.
Mr. Fuzioli.
Here.
I have laryngitis, I'm sorry.
The administrator is going to try his best, and we're going to try and help him out here. He's got a terrible case of laryngitis, but insists on being here. We will work that out. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise, those that can, and join me in a pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this point of the meeting, we would open to the public for any items not appearing on the agenda. I'm going to make a very educated guess that most of us here tonight are going to be here to review and hear comment on Ordinance 7-13. So I will still open to the public if there are any parties that have comment to make to the Township Committee that aren't on this agenda. So a motion to open?
So moved.
Second. And second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open. If you would like to address the Township Committee, once again, I'd like to reserve comment on the ordinance at hand for later. We will open on that note. If you would like to comment, do so from the podium, giving us your name and address for the record. And by the way, I understand there's a pad on the podium, and if you just print your name and address for us if you are going to comment, that'd be a great help to us. Thank you. So on that note, I'll wait to see if anyone would like to comment at this juncture. Seeing none, hearing none. Motion to close.
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. All right, gentlemen, I'd like approval of the minutes of regular meetings of December the 20th, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, under communications, the Hanover Township's Board of Education, Vanessa Wolski, Business Administrator, Board Secretary, under a request for funds. The amount requested is $1,784,635. Okay. That. And that's the only correspondence you have on that. Is that it? Okay. All right.
Go to ordinances.
I'm going to take ordinances. Yeah. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move down through some ordinances now. And once again, I remind you, I'm going to hold off on Ordinance 7-13 as the last portion of our business in order that we can all have an opportunity to comment on it. All right? So bear with me. For public hearing and final passage, Ordinance number 3-13, which amends and supplements Chapter 166 of the Code, entitled Land Use and Development Legislation, by amending and supplementing the regulations for tree preservation, removal, and planting. And this is for final passage. Okay. All right. A motion to open
So
to the
moved.
public, gentlemen. Moved and
Second.
seconded. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is 3-13 is open to the public for any comment. Seeing none, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on the vote, okay? In favor of motion to adopt on 3-13?
So moved.
Moved by Member
Second.
Schleifer, okay? Seconded by Member Capola. On roll call, okay? Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Okay. Member Firmaska?
Aye.
Okay, Member Capola?
Yeah.
Okay, Member Bruno?
Aye.
Okay, and yours truly, aye. So approved, okay? Got that? Hand signals will do. Okay. Ordinance number 4-13, amending and supplementing Section 125-4 entitled Recreation Department Fees under Chapter 125 of the Code entitled Fees with the inclusion of new resident and non-resident pool membership fees for 2013. Okay, is this for for adoption or for, yeah?
So
All right,
moved.
This is adoption, okay. Moved by Member Faramasca, so second?
Second.
Okay, was that Bob? Okay, Member Bruno? Okay, all right, on opening, all in favor on opening?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Aye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open on ordinance 4-13. Any members of the public would like to comment on that at this time? Seeing none, hearing none, motion to close that portion?
Second.
Moved and seconded, moved by Member Capola, seconded by Member Bruno, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, now on adoption, all right, motion to adopt?
So moved.
All right, moved by Member Faramasca.
Second. I think Bob seconded it.
Oh, and, all right, seconded by Member Bruno. Okay, on roll call, all right. Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Okay, Member Faramasca?
Aye.
Member Capola?
Aye.
Okay, Member Bruno?
Aye.
And yours truly, aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, on that. All right. Ordinance 513, amended supplementing Chapter 198 of the Code entitled Parks and Recreational Areas with the inclusion of a new Article 3 entitled Prohibited Smoking on Public Property. Ladies and gentlemen, this ordinance will have the township posting proper signage in our parks and other public properties, around public buildings, areas where smoking will definitely not be permitted. Once again, I want to open to the public. Motion to open?
So moved.
Okay, moved by members Schleifer and moved by member Faramasca. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone who would like to address the committee on ordinance 5-13?
There's somebody here.
Please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Alan Kantz. I'm
Write
from
it
Global
down.
Advisors on Smoke-Free Policy. I'm not a resident of Hanover. I'm a resident of Summit, New Jersey.
My old hometown. How's everything in Summit? Good,
Summit's doing well.
good.
It's a little cold.
Is it?
And
Hi, my name is Lucille Talbot. I live in Denville, New Jersey, but I'm representing the Morris and the Somerset County Cancer and Chronic Disease Coalitions in support of this ordinance.
Thank you.
And I wanted to say that I'm very excited to see the municipality considering this ordinance because we're seeing many municipalities across the state consider and pass smoke-free parks ordinances. And we think it's a great idea because smoke-free parks are a clean, safe place to recreate, good place to have fun, and it's clearly the direction in which this state and ultimately the rest of the country is going. And to that end, the State of New Jersey Department of Health has made these signs available. So these are smoke-free park signs that are available for free to any municipality that makes their parks and recreation areas 100% smoke-free. And so we spoke with the health officer, and I have 36 signs here for the municipality, should you guys choose to pass the ordinance, which obviously is up to you. If it does pass, who should I give these signs to?
Right up here.
Okay,
Bring them up, okay.
thank you. Yeah.
So,
No, I just wanted to say thank you very much also for not only just protecting our children in the parks and the families, but for being leaders in the community and being concerned about public health issues, including the environment, and for starting to set a new social norm that it is not public healthy to smoke in public places.
George, what Dr. Van Orden commented at our health department meeting last evening, we're thrilled to be a part of the program, and we're thrilled to be putting the signs up. He was looking forward to the, getting Joe's laryngitis. He's looking forward to the signs themselves, and we said once we finally did final adoption, we would have the signs and be able to start to put them up, which we'll do. So that's fine. And did he give you the amount of signs that he would be needing?
He did. He said 36 or 38, which we have available.
Great. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Motion
Anyone
to
else like to
close.
be heard on that, on 513? Go ahead.
Motion to close.
Okay, motion to close by
Second.
Member Faramaska and seconded by Member Schleifer. Okay. All right, now, all in favor on the close?
Aye.
Okay. Motion for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Member Schleifer and Member Faramaska on the motion, first and second. On roll call, Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Member Faramaska?
Aye.
Okay. Member Capola?
Aye.
Okay, Member Bruno?
Aye.
Okay, yours truly, aye. Okay, 513 passes.
And we get some free
And we have,
signs.
and
guess
we
we're
have
on-
our
I think they're on
signs.
their way up.
Well done.
Signs? Or do we get a final smoke before we have to put them up? The ordinance number 6-13, authorizing the imaging, indexing, and scanning of all township committee and board and commission meeting minute books in digital format, and further authorizing the appropriation of $12,000 from the township's 2013 Capital Improvement Fund in all prior years for the financing of this project. Okay? Motion to open for discussion.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open on 6-13. This will take our code books, which we are up to date and all codified, et cetera, and then commit these books to a digital format with easy access, I suppose, for not only ourselves, but all of you as well. All right, anyone from the public would like to comment on that? Seeing none, hearing none, motion to close?
Second.
Motion to close, Member Schleifer, Member Faramaska. Okay, on adoption, motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Member Schleifer, Member Capola, was that? Who was
Yes.
that? Okay. All right. On adoption, okay, Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Member Faramaska?
Aye.
Member Capola?
Aye.
Member Bruno?
Aye.
And yours truly, aye. Okay,
Don't forget to remind everyone to sign before they speak.
yeah. Okay. You want to introduce, I want to do, no, I'm going to do this last. I'm going to do introductions. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to skip to two introductions. These are two new ordinances, and then we're going to come back on ordinance number 7-13. Introduction tonight is on proposed ordinance 813, authorizing 1.5% increase in the appropriation limit for the 2013 current fund budget and establishing a cap bank, all in accordance with NJSA 40:4-45-14. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this allows your township to appropriate an additional 1.5% over the 2% allowed in the budget for the purposes of establishing a cap bank. So on introduction, okay, motion to introduce.
So moved.
Okay, Member Schleifer and Member Farram, who was it?
It was John.
I'm looking
Member
up. All right,
Faramaska.
Member Schleifer and Member Faramaska. Okay. On roll call, okay, Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Okay, Member Faramaska?
Aye.
Okay, Member Capola?
Aye.
Aye.
Was that an aye? Or Member Bruno? Okay. And yourself, myself, yours truly, aye.
Public hearing is on the 28th.
When is it going to be, on 28th? I can't hear you. Okay. I can't pass this up. All right. The ordinance will be further considered for approval on the 28th. Okay. All right, and an additional introduction. Ordinance number 913, reducing the 2%, reducing the 2 cent per $100 of assessed valuation dedication to open space trust fund tax rate to a ½ per $100 during the calendar year of 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for introduction. This has followed the past 2 years. The 2 cent rate has been reduced in order to stabilize our taxes. Once again, this is for introduction, so on introduction.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
moved by Member Faramaska, seconded by Member Capola. Okay, on roll call, okay, Member Schleifer,
Aye.
Member Faramaska.
Aye.
Member Capola.
Aye.
Member Bruno.
Aye.
So introduced. It'll be, you're going to have that on for the 28th as well? All right. It will be, once again, open for adoption, for formal adoption on the 28th. Okay. You have no other introductions on that, right? Okay. Want to do resolutions, get them out of the way?
Yes. Group.
Any committee have any issue?
Motion is group.
Want to do resolutions? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, bear with us. We're going to do what's known as consent agenda. You probably see on your agendas a rather lengthy length of resolutions. We're going to go down, you want me to go down those by each description, or you just want to take them as consent agenda? All right.
Consent.
Is there any member of the committee that has any objection to any of the resolutions before you from 1 through 10?
Motion to approve as consent agenda.
Motion to approve as a consent agenda by Member Faramaska. Is that seconded by Member Bruno?
Mayor?
Okay.
Just, may I just point out for resolution number 7, if that could, that's a site improvement construction agreement. I'd like to just add that that would be subject to not only the committee's approval, but the engineer and the attorney. There's one issue we're still trying to just finalize that.
I'll amend the motion
the
subject to
record?
the attorney's amendments.
Thank you.
All right, on the consent agenda, been offered by Member Faramaska. Is that seconded?
Mr. Bruno
Yes.
seconded.
By Member Bruno?
And also, Mayor, on resolutions number 3 and 4, it would be subject to the certification of funds being available.
On the services of John Brody, retaining services of Philip, in each case, on the subject to the funds being escrowed, right?
Yes, the
Okay.
funds being available. Yes.
Again,
fine.
I will amend the motion subject to the attorney's
Is
commentary.
that seconded by Member Bruno?
Second.
Okay. On roll call, Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Member Faramaska?
Aye.
Member Capola?
Aye.
Member Bruno?
Aye.
Yours truly, aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Resolutions, all right. We're going to take this all together, all right. We're going to do raffle applications. Ladies and gentlemen, once we finish on this, we've completed the agenda short of the discussion point that we want to have here. Raffle applications before us is raffle application number 2627, Red Oak School. Raffle application 2628, 2629, Mount Pleasant Animal Shelter. Raffle application 2630, Whippany Library Association. Raffle application 2631, 2632, Jersey Battered Women's Service. Raffle application 2633, 2634, and 2635, Whippany Park Booster Club. Okay. A motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, moved by Member Faramaska, approved by Member Bruno. Okay, that's on payment of bills. On the, you need a vote, you need a roll call on that raffle application? On a roll call, all right. Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Member Faramaska?
Aye.
Member Capola?
Aye.
Member Bruno?
Aye.
And yours truly, aye. And finally, on the payment of bills in the amount of $8,238,399.92. Our financial officer.
Make a motion that we pay the bills.
Make a motion that it's good to pay the bills. Okay.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All right, on roll call, Member Schleifer?
Aye.
Member Faramaska?
Aye.
Member Capola?
Aye.
Okay, Member Bruno?
Aye.
And yours truly, aye. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for bearing with us through the general agenda. All right, at this time, we're going to open discussion and open the floor on what would be final on the ordinance number 7-13. 7-13 authorizes the acquisition by purchase or eminent domain, if necessary, of real property known as Block 5801 Lot 2, Block 5801 Lot 5, for the improvement of the intersection of Whippany Roads and Parsippany Roads. Now, before I open the floor on this resolution, I would like to comment, excuse me. Yeah, I got that. I would like to take a moment to comment. There's been much being circulated around our township with regard to this particular ordinance, and many of the comments need to be rectified. Some have seen some notices in the paper, Some have even seen some flyers which are being passed around town. And these flyers indicate to some degree in a threatening manner that the Township Committee intends to condemn additional properties as well throughout the town. The flyer refers to a report that the Township Committee has obtained. This report by RBA, the RBA Group, is a traffic circulation study for the entire Township of Hanover. This report has been done over the last year. It's a very comprehensive report. It takes into consideration many of the intersections of our town, many of the bridges of our town, many of the boulevards and streets of our town, and it's a far-reaching report. In a perfect world, it would be wonderful to adopt this entire report, and we'd have very little concern with traffic movements throughout Hanover Township. But that is not reality, and that's not what's going to happen. And what the Township Committee has done, along with its planning board and planner, along with the county who has looked at this as well, is we have made recommendations for areas that need immediate attention. Now, along with those recommendations, there's another comment that's being made that I'd like to set the record straight on, that this is going to cost we taxpayers a great deal of money. The Township of Hanover has traditionally and continues to put the burden of these improvements on the developers or on the properties that create the impact. These are not taxpayers' dollars. The way this process works is that off-site improvements on a new building, a new development, a new house, whatever the service is, etc., if there are such off-track improvements, there is an escrow account that is set up for that particular developer or property owner. That property owner is required to put into that escrow account all the necessary monies and funding for planning board fees, associated permits and other fees that relate to reviews of the site plans that have to be done. Our planner, who is employed by the township, salary greatly paid by those fees, not by you or I. Those fees also pay for the hard costs of any improvements, whether it's road construction, reconstructs, whether it's other necessary improvements that are necessary, comes out of that escrow fee. If the dollars aren't in the escrow fee, the improvement doesn't take place. Your tax dollars do not get spent on any of these escrow fees where off-track improvements are concerned. Now I have to take a break. The township's responsibility is to maintain those improvements once they're done. So your streets get repaved, hopefully more of them this year than ever before. We'll be spending over $1 million in street repavement and resurfacing this year. And the upkeep of these improvements when they're done are the responsibility of you and I, to the taxpayers at that. So having said that, what's before us tonight is for a final on a ordinance which would allow the township to go forward in a process to obtain appraisals on the particular two properties involved here. For those of us, let me clear the air on one other quick thing. Some of you may be here tonight to hear comment on what's known as the south campus of the old Lytton property site. Okay, Lucen property. Lytton property is being taken care of tonight. Right. On the old Lucen site. The South Campus is not on this agenda tonight. We will not be discussing it tonight, but I will tell you this. There have been concept submissions for the South Campus that have come before the planning board as recent as a month ago, and the concept was completely defeated by the planning board. We were very upset with it, and it has led to the planning board's creation of a subcommittee, and it also led to the hiring, the commissioning of an outside architectural firm, Burgess Associates. Burgess Associates will be brought into this to review the property in question. To help you understand this, our new neighbors, Bayer Corporation, of the 210 acres on that Lucent property, have acquired 90 of them. The balance of that property, some 110 acres, is known as the South Campus. The present zoning for that South Campus is exactly as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. We have not changed the zone. It's still what's called OBRL for office buildings. It's the same as it was when AT&T was there, and Bell was there, and Lucent was there, and Alcatel was there. We are contemplating changing the zoning to downsize the impact of that zoning. The traffic report and the traffic study that is before you takes into consideration the present zone on that property as it exists today and what the impacts of traffic would be in the area, not only from that property, but properties from the surrounding four corners. But let me go back to those of you who have been told to come here in reference to site plan review for that site. That is not going to happen tonight. You will be informed, and by the way, the proper way to get correct information about your township is on www.hanovertownship.com. It's a website that's being kept up to date for you. It has meeting agendas, it has meeting dates, it has the substance of what's going to be on those meetings all posted on that site. I highly recommend you review that site before coming out to any meeting where you've gotten flyers or you've gotten phone calls or you've gotten emails of what some people think may be happening. All right, having said all of that, gentlemen, I'm going to move on now to discussion on ordinance number 7-13. Before I do that...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, prior to moving on to that, given the amount of information that has been communicated in advance, I think it would be only fair for everybody in this room to have an opportunity to learn a little bit of the history, what has taken place with this process. So what I would like to do is recommend that we give our attorney an opportunity to communicate for what has been taking place from planning on out for the past 18 months.
Yeah, I think, John, that's, I think that would be appropriate. What we'd like to do is have counsel explain to those here tonight where we are, how this ordinance affects us, and what the process is. Many out there, and I'm not going to take the explanation away from council, but many are under the belief that the Township of Hanover is going after these properties and condemning without benefit of giving the property owner any fair value and any other considerations. I think it's important that we take a moment. Fred, if you can explain this process, I think as we discussed earlier, would be a great help. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Mayor. The ordinance this evening is for the acquisition or purchase by arm's length transaction and negotiations, or if necessary, eminent domain. And with respect to this ordinance and how we're at this point, it should be noted that for the last 18 months, the Township Committee, and in particular the mayor, has reached out to property owners that are affected by these two properties to discuss potentially the acquisition or the purchase of these two particular properties. There was a request for some informal meetings, and the mayor, you could, I'm sure, delineate a little bit as to the attempts that you made. But with that being said, during that time period, there were no offers made by the property owners to sell. Even when asked for a proposal, the Township Committee was not provided with any type of proposal to purchase the property whatsoever. That also includes the concept of including relocation plan, and even the discussions that the mayor tried to initiate would have included relocating certain structures on the property to a different location of choice, or even different sites for the property owners to move to in Hanover Township. But from there, what happens is we've gone back now to the Township Committee, and they have this ordinance before them this evening. Now, this ordinance is based upon a number of documents that the mayor referenced a little while ago. It's based upon a traffic study that was prepared by an outside consultant, RBA Group. It's based on the amendment of the planning board to the traffic circulation plan, which supports the idea that it is critical to address the traffic concerns at the intersection of Whippany Road and Parsippany Road by making these changes and acquiring these properties. The ordinance is also supported by a report of the township planner, Blaise Blanchow, to acquire these properties and make these improvements, and also by the township engineer, Jerry Macera, to make those improvements. This ordinance authorizes the acquisition, and it could be very well by an arm's length negotiation and transaction. And the clock basically restarts if the Township Committee adopts this ordinance. And the process says that if you're going to acquire property, and if you end up acquiring property by eminent domain, the New Jersey Supreme Court gives owners certain rights and protections. It's not as if, as the mayor said, we can just go in and just acquire the property that easily. It doesn't work that way, nor does the township want to work in that manner. The Supreme Court says the Eminent Domain Act provides uniform procedures to be applied to ensure that constitutional requisites are met and to increase protection to citizens whose property is condemned. So the process that would begin and take place says first the township should obtain an appraisal of the two properties in question. And earlier this evening, the Township Committee adopted a resolution number 3, which authorized the hiring of John Brody, who holds the highest designations of an appraiser, an MAI and a CRE. And it is to appraise both of these properties. That appraisal will be given to the Township Committee as to what Mr. Brody believes the fair market value of those properties are. That appraisal will then be sent to the property owners with a letter asking them if they would be interested in selling their property for a fair market value. But the property owners would be provided with this appraisal report. That doesn't always happen when you're selling and buying properties. That's what the Township Committee proposes to do. That's the steps they're going to take, and it's also what the law requires to be done under these situations. In addition to providing the property owners with that appraisal report and a request to buy the property for that fair market value, it also asks the property owner if they would like to negotiate even further, or if they would like to submit any information to convince the committee that the property may even be worth more. The Township Committee also is concerned about the fact that there are businesses that may have to be relocated. And from that standpoint, they adopted resolution number 4 this evening, which hires a professional planning firm to address and begin to address workable relocation assistance plan for these properties, to start to delineate and outline possible relocation plans for these businesses, hopefully right here in Hanover Township. And the committee has adopted a resolution to authorize this professional firm who's experienced in this particular area to assist the property owners to make this transition as seamless as possible under the circumstances. So once that appraisal and the relocation plan and an appraisal of whatever the cost would be to relocate the business is offered to these property owners, at that point in time, the property owners can make a decision if in fact they would simply like to sell the property to Hanover Township. It's not to financially harm these particular property owners. It's to give them a good faith negotiation for the township to acquire those properties. It's not to just take their properties. If in fact negotiations go forward and the property owner still refuses to sell the property, then the Township Committee under this ordinance, based on the record that it has, may in fact proceed with what's known as an eminent domain action. If that were to occur, the property owner would have a right before a board of 3 commissioners to have the case heard, to have the township put on proofs and say, this is the fair market value of the property that we propose to pay, this is the cost of the relocation that the township proposes to pay, and the commissioners will make a determination as to whether or not it should be the value that the township presents or even higher if in fact the property owner puts on such a case. The property owner doesn't even have to put on a case. They're not required to. But that determination of the commissioners could be rejected by the property owner. And if it is, the property owner then could say, we want to start yet all over again and have a jury trial and have jurors determine what the fair market value is of the property. And once that determination is made, then there would be a judgment and an award of a condemnation value. If the property owner is not satisfied with that, they could appeal based on any type of error or anything they allege in that determination. But there are a number of steps along the way that gives the property owner numerous rights and opportunities to say, have a good faith negotiation and to receive fair compensation for their property. This is much different than a property owner who just puts their property up for sale. The buyer has to provide appraisal information. The buyer, in this case, the township, has to pay for relocation expenses and compensate for that. The buyer, in case of the township, has to put on an actual case and proofs to say this is the fair market value. And the buyer, which is the township, would also be obligated to negotiate in good faith. And tonight, the ordinance says just that. It says the township could acquire by acquisition or, if necessary, eminent domain. There's a number of steps along the way where the property owner gets all of that information and can make an informed decision. So this action tonight is to acquire the property, not the professional practices that are located therein. It's to relocate those practices. If there are members of the public who want that practice, who visit or frequent those businesses, it's not necessarily because of the buildings they're in or the specific location. The township wants them very much to stay in the vicinity of that property. It's because they're visiting, they're there to get the services that are provided, not necessarily the properties. And the township wishes to move forward in fair negotiations and simply move these property owners to another venue. There's been discussions to relocate certain aspects of the property, and again, to relocate these properties based on the assistance that the township has hired a professional planner to begin to coordinate. With respect to the ordinance this evening, that is really what's before the Township Committee. The reports and the basis for the need to acquire these properties, and then to start the process to attempt to negotiate a fair market value acquisition price for these properties.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate that. I know that's a very involved explanation and detailed explanation, and I'm sure along the way, if you have questions, we're more than happy to try and answer them for you. From the format standpoint for this evening, we have a great deal of people with us this evening. I would like to implore you to bear with us, and if you wish to address the Township Committee, whether it's a statement or questions, I will give you the podium for 5 minutes only. You will have the podium for that 5 minutes. There will be no return to the podium. We will allow all speakers the podium this evening, and at the end of that session, I will close and the Township Committee will respond with their comment to your questions and or statements. I am not going to encourage a dialogue between the Township Committee and the speaker at the podium. I would expect and respect the fact that we'll all conduct ourselves in a very civil fashion, so there'll be no public demonstrations of any sort. If we find out that we are having difficulty with any individuals with public statement, you will be removed from the meeting room. On that, I would like a motion from the Township Committee to open the floor on ordinance number 7-13.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm going to reinforce what I said earlier. From the podium, there is a pad. If you would write your name and address down on that pad for a record and give us your name and address for the record at the podium. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open.
Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, my name is Richard DeAngelis. I'm an attorney for 57 Whippany Road Associates, the owner of the property located at that same address. Understand, and that property is...
Counsel, you can pick up that microphone if you wish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because it's, if for whatever reason, we're not getting a clear message.
Better if
Go
I
ahead.
lean in?
That's better.
Okay. I like to keep my hands free on the time. Again,
We're reserving
Richard
that for the
DeAngelis
administrator.
With the law firm of McCurdy and Riskin, we're based in Morristown, New Jersey. We actually specialize in 2 areas of law, eminent domain being one of them. I represent 57 Whippany Road Associates, the owners of the property at that same address. There are, as some of you may know, 3 partners that comprise 57 Whippany Road Associates, and you may be hearing from one of them later on. Mr. Mayor, to address a couple comments that you made, I'm sure the committee can appreciate the emotion that is involved when the government comes along and says they're going to take your property. And the outline that Mr. Semro gave us was excellent. It was spot on. It was a very comprehensive explanation of the process that will occur once this committee, if this committee decides to proceed. I think, though, council skipped an important point, and that is before any of that occurs, there's a question of whether or not this is a public use. And I think that's a very important question to ask here. And, you know, we've looked at this pretty closely since our clients came to us a few weeks ago. The issue, I have not seen as of yet a plan from the township as to what is going to occur there. What we have seen, what we have been provided, is something that's come from the developer. Now, we can talk about this is for improvements of an intersection, public safety, and I don't doubt that at all. Let's face it, most of the intersections in Morris County that even after they've been reworked, are still failing. And specifically, this one will be even after these improvements are made. There is no doubt under the law that a government, a municipality can take property, even if it benefits primarily another property owner. The Supreme Court has spoken on that. As long as there is a public use. In the case that I refer to specifically, it was a public road that was built to get from a public road up to a property that was essentially landlocked. And the concern that I have here is my client's property at the end of the day will not be utilized for public purposes. My client's property will be utilized to serve, in part, a private driveway to the development. My clients have no interest in delaying the activities that are going on up there. They believe it's good for the township. I'm sure everybody was quite concerned when Lucent left, and quite excited when Bear was coming in. But you got to put all that aside. Keep in mind what you're doing. You're taking my client's property. My grandfather lost his house when the Parkway came through, a house that my great-grandfather built when he came from Italy. It's a very emotional issue, and I really beg of you to understand that. And don't take the attacks that things that have been said that may be perceived as attacks as anything more than people who are passionate about what they have. I'm sure nobody would like it if the government knocked on your door and said, we're going to take your home. We're going to take your business where you've been for 20, 30 years. It's an emotional issue. But let's get back to the law. At the end of the day, will 57 Whippany Road, as it's constituted today, that lot, be used for a public purpose? According to the plan that I've seen, only a small portion of that property is to be utilized for a driveway. My understanding is at the end of the day, the township isn't going to have ownership of that property. What's going to happen to the rest of my client's property or Dr. Garcia's property? Before you vote, think very carefully about this. I know you're not footing the bill, you're not writing the check. Mr. Mayor, what you talked about earlier, I understand that. I did land use in a past life. I understand that the developer is responsible for off-site improvements. We're not talking about off-site improvements here, folks. We are talking about taking private property. So again, before you make your vote, make sure you have an understanding and you can accept that this is going to pass muster. So I have some serious questions whether it will if this goes to court. And one of the things, Fred may have mentioned this, you know, the property owners do have a right to challenge the taking. It's very difficult to overcome, to beat a government taking property, especially for a road or public use. I've tried it. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. More often than not, you lose for taking like this, unless there's a procedural misstep in one of those many steps that Fred talked about earlier. But I think there's a serious question here about public use. Unless somebody up there, I would like the council to respond and tell me what's going to happen after the property is acquired. Who will take ownership? Will the township maintain ownership? Will that be a public street? And what's going to happen to the rest of the property, which, as of today, my understanding is not encumbered by the driveway. Just a small portion of it, 2 corners of it, my client's property. So I asked the council, what are you going to do with the property after you take it? Will you maintain ownership? Will it be a public road, a public park, anything for the public? Or will it just simply be handed over? Because we all know who's footing the bill here. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, the developers are permitted to do that. That's good for taxpayers. But if it's a public use, the question is this a public use? So, Mr. Mayor, committeemen, will the property be maintained by the township?
This piece of property, as other pieces of property in the township, will fall under Title 39. This will be servicing the entire 210 acres of developable land in that area. The zone will have a multitude of different uses, not the least of which is a pharmaceutical firm, which is on it now. It will probably be servicing everything from residential to potentially some retail to potentially even hotel or extended hotel uses. That particular, you refer to driveway, that street, which is going to be a boulevard street coming out of that, will tie specifically into the intersection traffic signal at Whippany Road and Parsippany Road, which will control that property and properties on all 4 corners, which, by the way, will also be affected by improvements, all right, including the new quick check that's going in there. The present driveway, which was used by one tenant, which was the AT&T company, will be abandoned with the improvement of this use. This particular intersection design has been recommended by this study, and I assume you acquired a copy of this study because I noticed that certain portions of it have been quoted in other pieces of material. It's supported by our planner. It's supported by a planning board review of the study. It's supported by the county engineer who has also looked at this study, that the driveway use must be vacated and that the better public use for safety and traffic control in that particular area of the township is by this one signal and one intersection and the improvement of this entire intersection.
But Mr. Mayor, I'm still unclear. Will the new driveway, a portion of which is going over what is now the lot owned by my client, will that be a public road? Will that be a public street, dedicated public street?
A portion of that coming off the county road will be county street, and that as it comes into the property, you keep referring to it as a driveway. I refer to it as an access street under Title 39 that will service the entire 210 acres of use.
And I think the answer also is, what the mayor's saying is, it's whatever's in the interest of the public to address the traffic concerns. We know that these 2 properties are part of that plan. They're essential to whatever the ultimate outcome is. That's why there's the planner's report, the engineer's report, the independent traffic study, and the circulation plan. They all support the fact that there's a public purpose, and these properties are critical to the ultimate traffic improvements.
But is the use of the property necessary? What's going to happen to the rest of the property? I haven't heard a clear answer on that.
I think, though, Mr. DeAngelis, that's as
You-
clear
you've
as I
heard
can make it.
quite clearly,
Yeah.
Counselor, and we've allowed you 10 minutes, and I'm happy that we did, because I think the dialogue that I wanted to disallow was good dialogue, and it entered a lot into the record for us. But thank you for your 10 minutes.
I'm Dr. Robert Giaquinta, part owner of 57 Whitney Road. I'm going to read my statement. Although I have partners in ownership of this building, I am only speaking for myself. I am going to read this statement on the issue so that I can be precise in my words, that I can make my points, and that I will not ramble. I am making this statement so that the citizens of this township can be aware of what is happening in reference to this project and how it will affect them. First, some background. A few years ago, 200-acre Lucent property was purchased by Vision Equities in partnership with Rubenstein Partners, which is at minimum a multi-million-dollar real estate corporation. 2 years ago, Bayer Health purchased approximately 100 acres to house these corporate headquarters. In November 2011, I was contacted by Vision Equities, who were interested in buying my property so that they could put in a private driveway to service this site. At the time, I saw an aerial view of the Lucent property on Rubenstein's website. All of the Lucent property was outlined with a red line. Included in this red line were my and Dr. Garcia's properties, indicating that they had control of our properties. At that time, I realized I would be standing here at some point in the future. Major corporations eventually get what they want. In December of 2011, I had access to the site plan for the proposed improvement of Whitney Road, Parsippany Road intersection. The proposal showed that instead of the continuation of Parsippany Road crossing perpendicular to Whitney Road, this driveway strangely veered to the right at an obtuse angle. My property is more than 100 feet from this intersection. However, a wide circumference right turn lane is proposed. This is supposedly needed to accommodate 18-wheelers. Because of the inappropriate angle which the driveway took, the pavement just missed my building, causing the need to take my building. However, if this driveway continued perpendicular to Whitney Road for approximately 50 feet, the turning lane would not interfere with my property at all and would be more than 30 feet from my building. Only a few parking spaces would have to be taken from the funeral home parking lot. There is also a truck turning lane on the north entrance that can be utilized. I have driven the length of Whitney Road, and no other driveway has a turning lane of this dimension. If the driveway was minimally altered, I was willing to give the developer a portion of the front yard and a portion of the backyard so that this improvement could be made. I understand that Bayer Health site is good for the state, county, and township. I did not wish to impede the progression of this project. In January of last year, there was discussed a short meeting with the town and Vision Equities. Also discussed was both the movement of the driveway 100 yards south of my property and the extension of Algonquin Parkway to the new development. We left the meeting with no compromise. In 2008, I ran for the United States House of Representatives for the 3rd District of Nevada. I am well versed in many governmental functions, much more than the average citizen. I knew of the 205 Federal Supreme Court decision on Kelo versus New London in regards to eminent domain. This, in my opinion, wrong decision sided with the investor over the rights of citizens. In response to this, all but a handful of states passed state laws that made it a more level playing field. Guess what? New Jersey did not change its eminent domain laws. I felt secure in my position in that even New Jersey, it is difficult to take a private citizen's property for the benefit of another private endeavor. By the way, 8 years later, the proposed improvement in New London is being used as a temporary dump. On January 10th of this year, I received a letter from the township which stated, quote, the need for safety enhancements, unquote, for this intersection. This changes my position drastically. This decision was based on the 67 Whitney Road Traffic Capacity Analysis Report that was dated September 30th, 2012. Guess what? The original plans were not changed, but it gave the town an excuse to condemn my property for public safety. It is much harder to condemn a property for a driveway for a private entity than if a governmental agency grooms a flawed traffic study to fit an already formulated plan. I have been on this property for 40 years. During this time, Bell Labs Lucent have employed twice as many people as Bayer is proposing to employ. Yes, there was traffic, which was somewhat controlled by staggering work hours and the use of 3 drivers, but we survived. Is the town now admitting that there has been a need for safety for the past 40 years, and they have done nothing about this? Then as far as I am concerned, they have been negligent in their duties. Or is this just a ploy to make it easier to take our buildings? What the town is not telling you is the following. On page 3 of this report, it states that if only the Bayer North Campus is developed, quote, the intersection of Whitney Road and Parsippany Road can function well with some minor signal modifications. Example, equipment changes only, unquote. The study continues that if both North and South campuses are completed.
Doctor, I hope you're going to sum up shortly. You're well past 5 minutes, but please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm a principal. I think I should be able
5 minutes, sir. Thank you.
All right, I'll skip. All right, everybody has their own agenda. Bayer wants a world-class entrance to their headquarters. That's fine. Vision equities. The original intersection plans were made conforming to their best interest and to serve their purpose, which, as we all know, is to maximize their profits. Vision Equities does not want to give up their property south of my building to put in a nice tree-lined boulevard to service both Bayer and the South Campus. They would be responsible for maintenance of this improvement, and they would not be able to build on this driveway, which would reduce their corporate profits. Why doesn't the town condemn a swath of land from the South Campus for such a driveway? This option could be started almost immediately, enabling Bayer to move in as soon as possible. It could also be used until a better solution can be achieved. Bradley Braviak Funeral Home. If Parsippany Road were to be continued in the same direction as it runs now, the road would go directly through their parking lot and not affect any other structure. I suspect that Vision Equities made an arrangement with them to bend the road to minimally affect Bradley's parking lot and therefore include my property. This sounds like a controversial deal to me, and their parking lot is only used a few days a week. There's a lot of history in the house. Other people will talk to this. Changing the names of things or giving legislative bills certain names is a ploy to fool the public. This is called doublespeak. In 1947, the War Department was changed to the Department of Defense.
I'm going to allow you 1 more minute, Doctor.
Okay. And although it hides an intent, is a much more politically correct name. In 2003, the government passed the Healthy Forest Initiative, which allowed large corporations access to clear-cut logging, which led to the destruction of forests. That's what names do. Constructing a driveway can be called a safety enhancement, but is still constructing a driveway. And if there was so much fervor around safety, how come we have a quick check and a convenience store on an intersection that is already heavily stressed? Who did this? And who made the designation of it being a safety enhancement? There was nothing in any report that said there's a safety enhancement here. It's basically to put a driveway in. You caught me short, but thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
One second.
Yeah, excuse us, folks. We just want.
To lose an industrial site like that, it makes it that much more difficult for the remaining industrial sites on the line
safe climate. It's true, yeah, that's great. Thank you for that insight. Anything else like that?
My commercial broker in the area, I know that formally the CO process has been a very arduous and very difficult process to get the CO pursued. I just wondering if you guys are looking to streamline that process. Please proceed, thank you.
You all right?
Thank you.
Counselor.
My name is Attorney David Gray from the law firm Foreman and Gray, right up the road here on Route 10 in Whitney. I represent Dr. Garcia and his family. Dr. Garcia and his wife own the property at 53 Whitney Road, which is 5801 Lot 5, and is also the subject of these eminent domain proceedings. And I would like to educate the council and the people here about some of the dilatory tactics that were used by the developer over the past 2 years while the study was evidently being prepared. Evidently, the study was being prepared as I was driving by the bridge that was also out of use and being constructed, so I don't know how.
If you could limit your comments to facts and not sarcasm, Counselor, we'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So, for the last 2 years, the developer has been using aggressive tactics to try to purchase this property from my client at a reduced
Mr.
price.
Gray? Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Just so you know, for the record, I just want to point out to you that the township, the ordinance before you this evening is about the township and the township to negotiate in good faith, not the developer. I just want to point out to you that the township is acting on this under the laws of eminent domain and property acquisition and acquisition of good faith, but this has, the township is not acting on behalf of any developer.
The laws of eminent domain are in place to protect citizens because the Fifth Amendment of our Constitution says it's unconstitutional for a government to take our property without just compensation. The government, we have this concept that if we own property, we owe it free and clear of the government coming in and taking it. I am pointing out that the developer has attempted to purchase this property from my client at a discount over the last 2 years, has shown up in his office unannounced, has attempted on numerous occasions to purchase this property from him, again, severely less than what it is worth. The developer's attorneys had stated to my client, you are a fool for not selling this to us, one way or another.
You're making statements, sir, that we cannot corroborate. We cannot account for what the developer and your client entered into. Please stick to the facts concerning the township.
You actually sent a letter to my client in January of this year offering to entertain a dialogue. However, you didn't want any attorneys involved or any other third parties. I will note that to date, precisely $0 has been offered to my client for this property by the town. Well, thankfully, we have a council that represents the people, Hanover Township. My client has been a resident of Hanover Township for over 20 years. Whitney Family Practice has been here in Hanover Township for over 20 years. Whitney Family Practice treats residents of Hanover Township and has done so for over 20 years. And Dr. Garcia has provided good service to the best of his ability with this small family-run business with he and his wife works in the building with him, to the people of Hanover Township. Dr. Garcia believes in the good faith that was mentioned earlier that Hanover Township would take. And I hope that good faith does actually exist. As an attorney, I worry about the good faith because I see that this council has already adopted 2 resolutions retaining an expert appraiser, and retaining the services of a relocation expert. Those resolutions have already been adopted, yet the ordinance has not been voted on. So I hope that good faith exists. I hope that the council takes into consideration Dr. Garcia's practice and the value that it brings to the community, and doesn't simply act to benefit this private party, this developer who's used these tactics in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel.
Mayor, I just note for the record that the resolutions that were adopted was done as a housekeeping item to clear the agenda so that the public would have an opportunity to be heard on this ordinance. And obviously, if the ordinance doesn't go forward, then the appraisals wouldn't go forward either, and they're subject to funding approval. So clearly, as part of acting in good faith to acquire property, as I mentioned earlier, you need appraisals, and the township even wanted to address the relocation issues this evening as well. So make no mistake about that, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but it was done in good faith to make sure that there's funding available and that those services would be available immediately if the governing body was interested in going forward tonight in with this ordinance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Fred. At the end of our public session, I'm sure we'll have comment from members of the Township Committee, and I too will comment to the extent the Township has extended itself to certain property owners in regard to settling this matter equitably, if not above values for the properties involved, and I can talk to that later. But, sir, you are?
Michael John Chuknicki, 57 Oak Boulevard, Cedar Knolls. I'm here as a private citizen. I say that because I'm actually the chairman of the Landmark Commission that the Township Committee so graciously...
Well, that doesn't influence anything now, does it?
Are you speaking as chairman?
No,
Oh,
as a
okay.
private citizen.
As a private, okay, just want to make that
Now,
clear.
we
for the
just
record.
announced that we're chairman.
Was told in February, a year ago, that the building was not going to be demolished, 57, and we've heard nothing about it since then. I received an email from one of the past chairmen Sunday telling me it was this was happening, and so there were a couple of things that I investigated that I wanted to share. On the property 57 Whippany Boulevard, there are basically 4 structures. There is the main house itself, there is a structure which is a water pump, there is a carriage house, and in the back there is a barn, or the remnants of a barn. I have been told that the main house dates back to, or the portions of it date back to the 1700s, and that it is one of 3 such buildings remaining in the township. I have also been told that due to the extensive renovations that have happened to that house in the last 225 years, that there is not a great deal of historical value to it. I am told that the other structures are very interesting because they are virtually unchanged in the last 225 years. I was shown the plan of the driveway road, you know, whatever that route is, yesterday, George, I think, right? And when I saw the drawing, it occurred to me that the 3 lesser of the structures, which historically are of more interest, do not seem to be in the footprint of the road at all. And I was told that there is actually plans to demolish everything and then landscape beautifully, and it occurred to me that if they're not in the footprint...
There is no site plan for this, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, and so I asked George if we could get a drawing of those things relative to the road to create effectively a tidy historical park with the most significant things left in sight. And so I just wanted to share that, you know, Landmarks has not been involved with this thus far, but last night when I went there and I looked at where things were, and then George showed me the drawing, I said, wow, this is, to my untrained eye, without having a detailed plan, it looked like those things might be salvageable right where they are, and Bayer would actually have a look at this. As you drive into our property, we have this beautiful remnant of our history, and I would hate to lose our history. I mean, I'm an engineer, and an engineer is always involved in bringing the future in, but that doesn't mean that we can't honor and try to retain what we can, even as we address the real pressing needs of the next generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Again, I'm breaking my own rule, but comments were made in the record regarding the age of this house, which is correct. It's well over 300 years old. I sat on the Landmark Commission for quite a few years and had the honor of serving with Bob O'Geely at that time, who was the chairman of it, Don, as you know. At that time, we undertook an investigation of historic properties in Hanover Township, which was a very involved investigation of those properties because it was to be incorporated in a landmark element to the Hanover Township's master plan. That landmark element was drafted on the recommendation of the Historic Landmark Commission. It was drafted by our planner, Blaise Branchow, for Township Committee adoption, and it was shown before the Planning Board of the Township of Hanover. This property did not qualify as a landmark. There are 19 such houses and properties within the Township of Hanover that did qualify. One of the reasons it did not qualify certainly was not its age. We do respect that. It's a beautiful piece of architecture from that period. It's been altered significantly and would not meet the criteria not only for us, but even for the state registry. So having said that, sir.
My name is Fred Carney, and I live at 73 Parsippany Road. That is on just the other side of the bridge on Route 10 in what's called the Flynn House that was built in the 1860s. I found out about this project just a few days ago and did as much research as I could. I reviewed the project and the road report as much as I could find information on it. And I have to say that the approach that the council is taking, doing this project piecemeal, because there are really 3 or 4 phases to this project, 3 phases. The Bayer portion of the campus, more development in the North Campus and then the South Campus. But what you're really talking about is one very large project divided into 3 pieces. My concern is that once you start the ball rolling on these pieces of the project, the momentum of that process of developing is going to go way beyond what anybody anticipated. And some of the things that are said in the report by your traffic engineers are of serious concern to me that are downstream, but an integral part of that project. The traffic report is troubling to me in and of itself because a lot of the traffic count that was done when the bridge over the Parsippany or the Whippany River was closed. So that the validity of the report is seriously questionable. The report suggested that...
Sir, are you commenting as a traffic engineer?
Pardon me?
Are you testifying as a traffic...
No, I'm not testifying as a
No, your
traffic
comment
engineer.
was you challenged the validity, but if you're challenging the validity of an engineering report by this consultation group, I just had to identify why you're challenging it.
I'm challenging it because the bridge was closed. And so a lot of the counting that was done was invalid because the traffic pattern had been temporarily altered due to the closure of the bridge. So the traffic was turning onto Parsippany Road that wouldn't normally go that way. And I saw that traffic every morning when I tried to get out of my house because I take Parsippany Road to Whippany Road to get into Morristown to go to work. One of the other things that really disturbed me about this report was they said that Whippany Road is the 3rd busiest road in all of Hanover Township. And yet, the proposal that you're putting forth is to put more traffic onto Whippany Road. I looked at a map. I'm relatively new to this area. I looked at a map, and son of a gun, if I didn't find Algonquin Parkway leading right into the other side of that property on the east. And it's a dead-end street. And I asked myself, why not use that as the access, as an alternate access? It would serve to disperse the traffic So you wouldn't dump everything onto Whippany Road, since most of the traffic already goes onto Route 10 getting to and from that property. That would give even better access to Route 10. The report said, this is what's especially troubling to me about this report. At page 35 it says that the traffic operational issue at the intersection of Parsippany Road and Veterans Place, Merlin Drive, and others on Parsippany Road created by Case B for the South Campus of Whippany Road cannot be mitigated without widening the full length of Parsippany Road. That is from Whippany Road all the way to Veterans. The Flynn House, it has a foundation of rocks. If you move heavy equipment in there, all the sand that's in those holding those rocks together will fall out. That house will be in a pile of rocks. You know, if you want to buy my house, I don't have a problem with eminent domain. I don't have a problem with that process. But I have a problem, I didn't even know about this meeting, and yet that affects me. At page 4, the report states, these requirements would most likely require eminent domain right-of-way takings, including the taking of buildings as well as the replacement of one or more bridges. What are those buildings? The Red Room, the buildings on the west side of Parsippany Road, and then any of the houses that encroach too close to the road. So you're talking about a tremendous expense involved there. Plus, it's not one or more bridges, it's 3 bridges. Whippany River, the little creek that joins the Whippany River, and Route 10.
Can you sum up pretty soon, sir?
Sure. There's a lot better way to ameliorate the problem that we have with traffic density on Whippany Road. You can require the developer, at no cost to any of us, to build a bridge over the Whippany River east at the extension of the Algonquin Parkway. We'd have to build maybe 500 feet of public road to enter that property. No cost to us. It's a much better alternative. It doesn't damage the environment. It doesn't damage our community. And it doesn't threaten the landmarks that exist in our community, including my house, which is historical, which hasn't been changed. The only thing that's been added to my house are 2 bathrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The recommendation that has been offered has been and is being looked into. It's a very difficult process because the Algonquin Parkway is bordered by wetlands, and the DOT and the DEP, whom we've met with, by the way, including Lieutenant Governor, who are still investigating this possibility, see this as a very difficult and long process. It does not mean we will not pursue that process. We still intend to actively do that. Deputy Mayor Faramasca has met with Lieutenant Governor on that process for the Algonquin, and if he wishes to comment, that's fine. But your comments are not being ignored.
In addition, Mayor Sheridan did bring this to the state's attention, trying to get access from Algonquin Parkway. We would all love to see access from Algonquin Parkway. Strategically, it is the right recommendation. Unfortunately, the state did not act upon it. The environmental issues they brought up were significant. The monetary costs they brought up were significant. And unfortunately, that is not what I would call a solution that's on the horizon now. Are we trying still to pursue it? Absolutely. Is it the right thing to do? But in terms of the reality, it's what we would call long-term, out there, many years, unfortunately.
Sir.
My name is Laszlo Csengető. I live at 11 Highview Avenue in Cedar
Could you
Grove.
shout into that microphone?
Shout?
Could you shout into that microphone?
Can I?
Yeah.
Want me to shout?
We could hear you better.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or you could pick it up if
Shout
you
it,
want.
you said. Yeah, okay.
No, just pick it up.
Name is Laszlo Chengeter. I live at 11 Highview Avenue, Cedar Knolls. You know who I am. Anyway, as far as the traffic conditions and safety, et cetera, Whipping Road in that area where these two buildings are, if everyone knows George and you, when I first started in the police department here, I was directing traffic there for well over 2 years in the morning and in the afternoon. At that time, we had approximately, I'd say, at least 3,000 vehicles entering and exiting the Bell Labs property. And at one time, in the afternoon, there were 4 lanes of vehicles coming out there and turning both north and south on Whipping Road. And by taking away these properties, I just don't see how this would resolve anything. My experience shows that at that time when I was directing traffic, the traffic was cleared up anywhere between 4 to 6 and 6 o'clock. And, and everyone got home, as you know. So I just don't see why this should be taken away. And an hour and a half ago, everyone swore to the flag, liberty and justice for all. And by taking this away, I just don't see how this could happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine Frazier, 33 Ridgedale Ave, Cedar Knolls. I am very disheartened that a town that professes to want to keep their town, including Whippany Road, residential-looking and colonial-esque, would consider taking over and tearing down 2 houses which embody just that which they profess to want to have in this town. Not only that, but the fact that Dr. Garcia and Dr. Schmidt have been providing exceptional service for this town for many, many years, and now you are willing to toss them out like the morning trash to put up what? A shopping mall and condominiums? How does that preserve a residential and colonial appearance for this town? Dr. Garcia is not only a doctor in this town, but he lives here also. Is that how we treat members of our community, much less members that have served us so well all these years? My entire family is and has been patients of Dr. Garcia and Dr. Schmidt for the last 30 years. They provide services that are needed in this community. Do we really need another shopping mall? Who will it be for? The people that will be working at Bear? Does Bear really need that much room? Wouldn't the people working at Bear be better served by a doctor and dentist right there where they would be working? Could they not go across the street to Quick Check for coffee instead of the shopping mall? How many businesses survive these days? Are we willing to throw out 2 good doctors with good businesses that have served our community for years for things that down the road may not survive the test of time? We've already seen that Dr. Garcia and Dr. Schmidt have stood the test of time and have served us well. Since eminent domain also means taking of land as a public benefit, I think we are missing the boat on this one, as these doctors are providing a public benefit already. What does it say for us as a community to tell them, sorry, you did a great job keeping our families well, but you have to get out now. We have bigger and better things to move on to. I don't think that that's a community that I would want to be a part of. In the end, isn't it how we treat our people, especially ones that take care of us, not how many buildings we can put up, that we will be known for, or at least we want to be known for.
Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman. Steve Minch, Fort Hill Road.
Could you write your name on that sheet of paper?
Sure.
I just wanted to remind you.
It's pretty good to see that you guys seem like you're acting pretty reasonable, honorable, trying to move the doctor, find, solutions for this. And it sounds real good. And it sounds like you're really doing everything you should be doing. In the end, though, I can't support eminent domain, and I can't see any of me supporting any town council or mayor that does. I hope in the end you guys don't pass this. If the builder made him an offer and he said he's a fool to sell it, well, it's his decision. It's his piece of property. It's their property. They're the ones who live there. That's pretty much the short of it. I can't support eminent domain. I hope you guys don't pass it. I hope they come to the solution. I hope the builder, maybe ponies up some more dough and buys them out for a better offer. Everyone has their price, but in the end, it's their decision. It's their piece of property. If they want it, they can keep it and build everything else around them. Build the mall, build the houses, build everything. And if they want to live there, let them live there. They're happy.
Thank you. Mayor, can I just, from a technical standpoint, the ordinance tonight first calls for an effort to acquire this by an arm's length type of negotiated transaction, and then only if necessary. So even if the committee adopts this ordinance tonight, it does not mean that you have to, or you could just acquire it by negotiations and willing buyer and willing seller. It falls short of compelling you to go forward with an eminent domain action. It gives you the option to begin with to just try to acquire it by an arm's length type of negotiation. It does not compel you tonight to acquire by eminent domain.
I think it's important for the public to understand that, and I know it's an emotional issue, and we're hearing a bit of that emotion. But this is true, that the negotiation process is not closed. It continues. It has been continuing. We cannot answer for a third party on this, which is 67 Whippany LLC, but we know that the township has and will continue to keep its door open to relevant negotiations. We want these neighbors to stay in our community. We are more than willing as a township and a township committee to relocate on or near the very same property, that it doesn't even upset the addresses that they presently have. We are offering to deal with these values far and above market at this particular time. We are offering to these property owners to pay all of their costs in relocation and even assist in identifying properties that would be suitable for them in and around the area for relocation. We will continue in that process, even through this, to do our utmost to bring it to a satisfactory conclusion that is beneficial to them and the situation at hand, which is the traffic safety. But, sir?
Ted Sika, 20 Emerson Drive, Whippany. First of all, I can't hear you from back here. None of you.
Oh, well, we can shout it to this too. This is good.
All right. I'm just going to echo what I said before in the last meeting. I've been here for 40 years. I've seen the Whippany Road from a 2-lane, and there was at that time, I think there was 3,500 people working in Lucent. Route 10 was a 3-lane road, no red lights, except I think for Whippany Road on Route 10. Progress has to come, of course, we understand that. I do welcome there, but not at the expense of people. I don't think it's right. There's a lot of different ways that you can get out of there. They got the money for 3 bridges, make 1 big bridge over Route 10, like jug handles, and in pieces of property that nobody is really concerned about, or you could buy right now. I think that's a good answer for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the comments. Anyone else would like to be heard at this time?
Bill Kaner, 26 Hamilton Court, Whippany. From some of the conversations this evening, I have a question. We're talking about some immediate property acquisition, but the question I have, and I think one of the gentlemen here mentioned it, was where is the traffic going to go? And I hear, maybe I'm wrong, but I hear expansion of Parsippany Road all the way to Legion Place. Now, does that mean a 4-lane improvement to Parsippany Road with an acquisition of all the additional property? If that's true, then what you're voting on tonight is just not the acquisition of 2 houses. You're talking about the acquisition of the property from Whippany Road to Legion Place. Now, the question I have is, I didn't look at you, I haven't seen your traffic study, but where are the people going to travel? If they're going south, they're going to go on Whippany Road South. If they're going east, they're going to go on Route 10 East. If they go north and west, where are they going to go? Parsippany Road. Because Route 10, particularly at this light out here, is a traffic mess every time during the evening rush hour. You get past the traffic light here at Jefferson Road, and you get into Parsippany, the traffic disappears until you get well up into the other end of Parsippany. So the question I have is, we're talking only about 2 houses and some additional access to the property. But it sounds like that in a matter of a short distance of time, you're going to be forced to expand Parsippany Road to a 4-lane road, and then how many more properties are involved? And if you dump the traffic onto Legion Place into Route 10, it's already backed up. So the question I have is, I don't know anything about traffic studies, but I do know about what I drive every day. And you're dumping more traffic onto Parsippany Road, which will go into Legion Place, which in Route 10 is backed up. So the question I have, the bottom line question is, you have a question on the table of 2 houses, but in the long run, are you putting forth a longer range plan of expanding Parsippany Road, taking facilities like, well, we don't have a post office anymore, so that's not a problem. But we are talking about Billy's Red Room, we're talking about the house, I don't know where that gentleman lives, but it sounds like he lives close on Parsippany Road. You're talking about expanding all of that road up to Legion Place. And it doesn't sound like you can stop at Legion Place. How far are you going to go? Well, you're going to force more traffic beyond Legion, on Parsippany Road, beyond Legion Place. So I think you've gotten yourself into a situation where you're solving one problem, but you're creating a much bigger problem. Now, am I right or wrong? Are we talking about an expansion of Parsippany Road all the way to Legion Place? Is that a true statement? I know you don't want to answer questions now, but you've been breaking your own rules several times, so I'd like to hear an answer.
Are you talking about veterans, not Legion?
Pardon?
You keep saying Legion Place. Do you mean Veterans Place?
Veterans Place.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
You know where I mean, where they tore down.
Yeah, the access to Route 10 West.
Yes.
Right past the bridge.
Right. Legion Place is up on the other side. Right. Veterans. I'm sorry.
I had commented earlier in the evening that the recommendations in this traffic plan are comprehensive, taking into a great deal of townships, as a matter of fact, as far-reaching as Boulevard Road up in the Cedar Knolls area. And I also commented that in a perfect world, it would be very nice to have accomplished all of this, and then we'd all be able to travel throughout our township very easily, etc. We were concentrating on an area that we know is imminently going to be impacted by some additions, not only in employees, but additions in uses on that site, 210 acres in a multi-type of use. The alignment of the intersection is well understood by our planners and everyone in this site. The alignment of the intersection lets that traffic light and the improvement of the intersection control all 4 corners of movement out to Route 10, along Whippany Road, etc., without that secondary driveway, which has had a traffic light some couple of 100 yards from the other traffic light. Never recommended by the county. It was an accommodation at the time. This sets out to straighten out the issue at that immediate zone, that immediate area for all the traffic. And it's not just our traffic, by the way. In the regional plan from the county, the additional traffic that we're seeing is not just Hanover Township traffic. It's coming from the Madisons, etc. It's coming from the BASFs that'll be built down there. And it tries to anticipate how much more additional traffic we can manage.
I'm not disagreeing with your comments. All I'm saying is that, and I realize in a perfect world you would make many accommodations for traffic. My only comment is, if you make this improvement to the intersection at this time rather than some other thing, you're going to be forced into a very near-term problem of Parsippany Road. And I'm saying that, you know, you have one problem you're solving at the same time you're creating one right behind it. Not long-term, in a perfect world, we're going to fix it. You're creating a problem immediately. So instead of creating another problem immediately, why don't you take a bigger picture, a bigger view of what's going on? And I don't know about this Algonquin Park right here, pluses and minuses both ways on that issue. But certainly, it gets the traffic away from, which is, admittedly is a bad intersection. But improving one little piece of the pie without realizing you're just making it worse 100 yards down Parsippany Road is kind of short-sighted in my view. I agree in a perfect world all intersections would be created equal. But what you're doing is you're making one part of the intersection perfect on the east side of Whippany Road. On the west side of Whippany Road, you're creating a fiasco, as far as I can see, with all your traffic numbers when I hear, are valid. A problem, immediate problem, I'll do it. The traffic light at Malpartisan, Parsippany Road is a problem. The traffic light at Veterans Place is a problem, and Route 10 is a problem. So I don't see how correcting one division is not going to have a major impact on Parsippany Road.
Ignoring one will only compound the rest as well. And it's not as though we're going to look at this site absent other exits. We are. We have to react, we have to act on the immediacy of the situation in that particular area. Both the Planning Board, Economic Development Committee, and this Town Council continue to explore other avenues of egress off of that property, not the least of which was earlier suggested, which is the Algonquin. Some of these things are going to take more time than others. Not very easily dealing with the DOT and the state, but we're willing to do that.
I understand all the time elements and the money and all that sort of thing. I'm just saying that why rush into this when you don't have a bigger picture looked at?
Mr. Mayor,
That's all I'm saying.
could
and
I
as far
speak?
as the existing parkway, the existing entrance for the property, that worked well for as many years as I can remember.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Thank you.
Blaze, share your commentary,
All right.
please.
I think there's some confusion. The township's plans for Parsippany Road are identified in the circulation element of the master plan. The township's plans for Parsippany Road are identified in its circulation element of the master plan. They do not include any takings along Parsippany Road. There is a statement in the traffic study that looked at the Whippany Road area and the Parsippany Road intersection that talked about different analyses that were done, and it said under existing zoning, if it was developed to its full capacity as permitted by the zoning, you would have to widen Parsippany Road to 4 lanes. However, the township is currently examining that zoning to different use that will not generate as much traffic as would be needed under that scenario. So there's no plans to widen Parsippany Road to 4 lanes. There's no plans to take property that's all identified in the master plan. There are plans to improve Parsippany Road, but again, that's a county road. We don't have direct control over the full length of Parsippany Road unless the county were to agree with it, but it's all within the existing right-of-way. It's not involving any additional widening of the street right-of-way. It may involve widening of the pavement, but not of the taking property to widen the road. So there's no intent to widen Parsippany Road as far as additional right-of-way goes. That's not in our plan.
Fred, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Fred Miola, 28 Whippany Road. I'm right up the street from this intersection. I remember what it was like when you had the light at the loosened driveway with that dog leg that used to occur because there's a heavy traffic movement onto Parsippany Road. You know, I usually became the unofficial U-turn for the people who knew that when they really stacked up to make the left, they could stay in the right lane, whip around in my driveway, and then come back and make the right onto Parsippany Road. So I commend you for pushing that thing straight through. That's the way it should be. Whether or not anything happens down the road, the volume of traffic doesn't change. So you either have them with the dog leg or you have them as a straight T intersection, which is much better. And I think that what you're doing is the right thing. Get some real appraisals, get the builder out of it, because unfortunately builders try to lowball it. I know they do. It's just the way the nature of the business is. They try to get it as low as they can to maximize their profit. And we've also, and I agree that I think you need multiple intersections here. Whippany Road is just one. I think looking at Algonquin Parkway, but getting past that, and I know that the town acquired a lot of the right-of-ways there, and I know the ultimate plan was to have Algonquin Parkway go all the way from Troy Road all the way to Columbia Turnpike, and with wetlands, that is probably never going to happen. But there's other properties along Route 10 that have enough space. Maybe they have to make a deal with one of those other property owners and bring the access somewhere else in there. You have where Einstein Mungi used to be. You have a fairly large piece next to that, against their building, that you can make a connection. So don't just look at Algonquin Parkway. Look at that whole strip of Route 10 and see if there's a good spot. Even if the developer or whoever's going to do it has to pay a little bit to buy the property, because some of those buildings have enough space between them where you could get access. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're correct, Fred, and I reinforce the fact that the Township Committee is not going to just rely on this one particular street area. We are exploring, as I said, we'll be back down in Trenton, we'll be talking again. We're trying to set up a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor and trying to do whatever we can to get a more easterly access out of there, whether it's onto the Algonquin, or you're right, whether it's through other properties that come out to 10, we can explore that, and we will. Mr. Ferriello, how have you been?
Good. Happy Valentine's Day. Okay.
4 minutes, here you go.
This is a win-lose situation no matter how you look at it. I understand the need to eliminate the Bell Ave Drive and realign the new Bear Drive to the light at Parsippany Road. That, along with access to and from Route 10, from Troy Hill, and from Troy Hills Road or Algonquin Parkway. That has been a plan since I was mayor when Lucent left the site. And I think it was Joe and Jerry and I even met with Christian Peters and asked him if he would give up a piece of property at the end of Troy Road or part of his building to make that access. And
You'd have to cross the river and you'd have to go up a steep slope, but yes, that was looked
there's
at.
other solutions, and the best access, I think, is the Route 10 access. What's bad about the current plan is the elimination of the historic Wilson House and all of its stone outbuildings, which is not essential to the drive and can and should be saved. Whippany is the oldest township before Morris County was established. It dates back to when Whippany Township was part of Hunterdon County. Our township was later renamed Hanover Township. We once gave Hanover Township the moniker, the first township. This is in honor of its long history as one huge township that was divided into two before seceding from Hunterdon County and becoming Morris County. If you give in to condemning the Wilson House, partly built in 1798, including all of the historic structures around the house, you're saying our history is less important than our modern development. If a radius turn is the issue, the plan should be revised to take only a small corner of the property and leave the history standing. Also, there's a drive closer to Route 10 that can be improved for truck traffic. This committee doesn't have to be part of disrespecting the history of Hanover Township. Our history is something to be proud of, and all our surviving historic sites need to be honored and saved. One thing, or old things, are what makes communities distinct. They give a township personality. I support the committee's move to realign the Bear Drive, but to redesign it to leave out the property at 57 Whippany Road. This is a win-lose situation no matter how you look at it, and a tough decision on your part. But the design can be reworked. If you have a problem, you can always find a solution. And I think there's a sign something to that effect on the wall in the conference room. It's unfortunate that ordinance 7-13 was not bifurcated into two ordinances, one for each property. So now it's all or nothing. I would urge the committee to defeat ordinance 713, go back to the drawing board, reintroduce another ordinance, and possibly just take one of the properties needed for the drive to Bayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. Well, Dr. Garcia, they're throwing you to the wolves. I know. Oh, boy. Okay, would anyone else like to be heard?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I just want to make a few comments on some of the things that I heard this evening. From the traffic reports, it looks like that the studies show that the roads for the north end are...
I'm sorry, sir. And we need a name for the record.
Sorry, excuse me, I wrote it.
Name and address.
Township 51 Cross Road.
Thank you.
I apologize. It shows that for the area designated as the north area on the studies, the traffic studies seem to indicate that with some logistical changes, they should be able to accommodate the traffic needed to build that portion of it out. It seems that the basic issue that we talked about with the south development and everything, which is really in limbo, and a lot of the discussion that we heard tonight, we really don't know what we're going to need in what areas, whether Parsippany Road needs to be widened or doesn't need to be widened. It's really a moot point. But if we have the time to build out that north section and then take traffic studies and look additionally at how that data pans out and see if we can get better information, then maybe a better comprehensive plan could be developed for the entire site, because eventually that entire site, it's in all of our best interest to get that site to be developed as much as we can possibly develop it. But if we do wait and not do this first portion of it, maybe we can avoid spending the extra cost, because like I said, the traffic studies tend to indicate that we could get through this first portion of it with the existing conditions, or changes to the existing conditions. That's the only recommendation, the only thought I would like to bring up.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard at this time?
Yeah, hi. My name's William Brunskip, 61 Mount Pleasant Avenue in Whippany. And my question is, I'd like to understand that this acquisition is not going to cost the taxpayers a dime.
That's correct.
In other words, Bayer or whoever it is going to wind up paying for it.
The owners of the properties, the developer, 67 Whippany LLC, is required to fund any off-track improvements.
Okay. And the only thing we're talking about then is the loss of the taxes on those two properties.
I'm sorry, sir, the
loss of the taxes, real estate taxes on those two properties?
from the loss of these residences?
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Not if you relocate.
I think obviously that's taken into consideration with the development of the entire 210 acres.
And I have a question. The Eden Lane extension goes all the way back onto that property. It exists already. There's a traffic light there already.
Mm-hmm.
How come that hasn't been considered?
It would be an integral part of any design, yes. It hasn't, that particular South Campus is still being looked upon for rezoning, and I think that the existing Eden Lane extension down there, and there's a driveway to the side of that too, that would have to come into consideration, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Not
also,
now?
well, one more thing. I'm sure north and west is still going to go through the Parsippany-Whippany intersection to get up to either 287 or Route 10 West.
Or straight ahead onto Eden Lane?
Well, yeah, but if you're going to go in that direction, which if you're going north or west is way out of your way, no one's going to go way out of their way to go there. and it's just going to add to the already congested Jefferson Road intersection. So, well, let me answer the gentleman's question. Okay.
Bill, would you let the gentleman at the podium talk?
Okay. So all I'm saying is that the consultant who did the studies essentially advised that if you have a driveway to Eden Lane, which it may have, anyone going north or west is still going to go through the Parsippany Road intersection. In fact, it'll add to the left turn movements at that intersection from Whippany Road rather than a straight through movement from the new aligned driveway. So it doesn't really solve the intersection problem to have a driveway out to Eden Lane. Unless, if they're already going south, they're not going to go through Parsippany Road anyway. They're going to go down Whippany Road to Route 24 or wherever they're going. But if they're going north or west, they're still going to go through that intersection. So the Eden Lane driveway, again, I'm reciting what the consultant advised, said it's not going to solve the problem.
It was considered, though.
Yes, it was.
That's the point here, Blaze, is the gentleman is saying, is that going to be still open? Is that going to be used?
Yes, there may in fact be
And
a
the fact is,
driveway
yes.
there and, you know, but it won't solve the problem at this intersection, which is what this ordinance is about.
Well, nothing really solves the Parsippany Road situation.
Well, this will improve it. This will improve it from what it would be otherwise. Because it's avoiding all the left turn movements, or not all of them, it's avoiding a lot of the left turn movements coming from this campus area. So if someone comes out to Whippany Road and they want to go to Parsippany Road, right now they have to make a left turn, which causes delay and congestion. With a straight through, that would be reduced. That's the point of that.
Thank you, sir. Bill, you've had a shot at the podium before, sir, so if we're going to try and give everybody an opportunity, so if you please, does anyone else like to speak at this time?
I'm Russ Amano, Farview Avenue, Cedar Knolls. In regard to the, all the points that I was going to bring up myself have been brought up already. But getting back to that Eden Lane thing, with the traffic coming out the back off to Eden Lane onto Whippany Road, then you're worried about the left-hand turn onto Parsippany. What if you put a left-hand turning lane right there? Now, I look at that. I'm not an engineer or anything, but it seems like there's a lot of room to make a left-hand turning lane. That's a long stretch from Eden Lane to Parsippany Road.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a very long left-hand turning
Mm-hmm.
lane. There is a left-hand turning lane going into Eden Lane already. So it would alleviate, you would still have two lanes going through with a left-hand turning lane. The traffic is going to be on Parsippany Road.
It's plausible.
Yeah, I read that report also.
Yeah.
And you're talking about 3 lanes coming out of Parsippany into Whippany with turning lanes there. That's a good idea. And you have a lot of property like there you can cut off. Because all the houses are set back, you know, whether you take one part or another part, I believe there's a lot of room to make a left-hand turning lane, which alleviates that problem there. And the intersection of Eden and Whippany has the traffic light there. It has turning lanes. With a little tinkering here and there, you can make it a big intersection, and that traffic can flow out freely to wherever anybody's going. That's it.
Hey, make a good point. I mean, that's currently, because it's a stub out there, it's underutilized, but I think if that campus fully develops fully out, you know, again, as was said earlier, we would have to be monitoring the traffic off of that site with consideration for additional improvements along the way. And if the left-hand turning lane is it.
It's already been brought up.
Yeah.
I mean, I read the report, and there's no panic right now. When I left the last meeting, I thought according to what Committeeman Farrell Musk is reading excerpts from the report, I thought there was all kind of panic. But that report didn't show me any panic until the south portion is gonna be developed.
It needs addressing.
Yeah, but I
Whatever,
have
whatever
to-
the, so you had earlier, if there's a problem, there's gotta be a solution.
No, I have
It needs to be
commend you.
addressed,
I have to
because it's
commend you
gonna
that
be
you
a
look into
longer
the
term
future
fix
to
before we.
alleviate a future problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Does anyone else like to be heard at this time? Judy, what would a meeting be without a comment from you?
Hi, I'm Judy Irati. I heard something very interesting recently, and that is with the Eden Lane mill site along the Whippany River in Eden Lane.
The River Park, yeah.
Yeah, that a very basic concept plan was proposed to develop that site, and that actually would even include the developer giving us a turf field and lots of tax revenue from that. But I was just wondering, I didn't look at your traffic study. Does your traffic study take into account the development of that site, since that site empties out onto Eden Lane, which we were talking about, that intersection, and it also would empty out onto Parsippany Road? So does the traffic study that you have take into account the development of that site?
We have a secondary impact report, which was just recently given to us on concepts for River Park. The two major pieces of land, as you know, in this township remaining are the 88 acres on Eden Lane, which for purposes of the folks here is the Whippany paperboard property. And finally, this 210 acres, 90 of which is Bayer. Over here. Those are the two remaining large pieces of land in the township. Recommendation by Director of Planning, Mr. Deputy Mayor Fermosca and I, et cetera, have been to do a core study of those properties, impact on the township regarding school systems, regarding traffic conditions, regarding infrastructure and service needs, police, fire, et cetera, et cetera. So we have Burgess Associates, which I had mentioned earlier, which is an independent, another architectural firm, looking at this with us. Matter of fact, we just had a meeting with them some hours ago. So, yeah, that still has to be considered as to, we can't operate in a vacuum. We're focused on this particular intersection because of the immediate, well, you heard earlier, there is an immediacy to it, only because it's starting to be occupied. The county is not, as you know, pleased with the fact that we've got that second driveway there. They wanted to eliminate the traffic signal that was there. We had a traffic signal, then a traffic signal within a couple of 100 feet of each other. So we're trying to alleviate that condition that exists right there now, that hot spot, let's call it, that's there right now, to service that particular area. Not just the 210 acres, and we just keep hearing that it's going to service the Bayer folks. It's going to service a very significant piece of property. 90 acres is a portion of that property. There's another 110 acres that are going to be developed at some point in a proper way and with this community's involvement. And lastly, and not least, is going to be the 88 acres River Park. Now, you know, the new family has an approval for that property already, some 750,000 square feet of flex buildings, which are combination office and warehouses. We can't operate in a vacuum. We have to look at it all. We are doing our homework. We're studying all the conditions in the area, and we'll react to what the experts tell us on this matter.
Now, realignment of the driveways would allow the traffic to flow smoother, but I think it would also draw more vehicles onto Parsippany Road. Because if I was coming out of Lucent now and I had to make the dog turn there to go west on Route 10, and it's backed up, I would just go to Route 10. So some of that traffic would be forced to go to Route 10 versus going onto Parsippany Road. But if you have an alignment right from that site, they're going to whip right onto Parsippany Road. Now, Parsippany Road and Whippany Road are both county roads.
Whippany Road's county road, but yes.
And Parsippany. Is it conceivable that in the future, with all this additional traffic going onto Parsippany Road, that the county would come through and say, guess what, we have to widen the road now? Would they have to come to the township first, or they could do that on their own, or what?
Really, the county.
Get you an answer for this.
That would really be the county's, decision if they were going to do something like that. It's within their jurisdiction, So and we haven't heard anything to that extent at this point.
So any type of a lane change or anything on the county road would be up to the county?
Well, they certainly would have that jurisdiction, being a county road.
Yeah.
But the town wouldn't be able to say, no, Parsippany Road is wide enough as it is? Or can the county override them and say, you know what, it needs to be 4 lanes?
I don't know, Judy. I think the county would really have last say on something like that, you know.
So
the
if there's
county-
more traffic on Parsippany Road, it's conceivable that the county at some point would say, you know, it's just not working and we're just going to widen it ourselves. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jude.
Hi, I'm Lucy Tisharin from 45 Deerfield Road. I guess I have a concern about the urgency in taking people's homes, whether it's through negotiation or through eminent domain. The traffic report that I read on page 3 says that we only need to take property if we develop the South Campus. But at this point, the South Campus isn't much more than a concept. We still have to address the issue of Algonquin Parkway. What if Algonquin Parkway turns out to mitigate the need for taking these houses? We still have the issue of the Eden Wood property. All of these things are in such flex at this point. To take houses, to actually pass an ordinance that would take houses at this time, seems to be so premature and seems to put such unnecessary stress on citizens who have been here for so many years. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding the immediate urgency and the public interest that is served right now.
Thank you. No comment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if there are no other comments at this time, and I'm just going to still keep the floor open for a second here. Okay. Bill, you're anxious to get back to that microphone, and I'll give you another minute. Go ahead.
I'm not anxious to get back, but the gentleman mentioned the traffic would turn right on Whitney Road and then go on Pacific Road. You're coming out of Eden Lane, it's a person who travels north on Whitney trying to go north or west. And Whitney Road is backed up at the light on Parsippany. Eden Lane is the exit point. You go, if you want to go north, you get on South Jefferson and go north. If you want to go west, you go all the way over to Ridgedale and go up to Route 10. Because if Whitney Road is backed up, that Parsippany Road, it means Route 10 is backed up. So anyone coming out of Eden Lane is not going to turn right onto Whitney Road to go to Parsippany Road. They're going to go straight ahead and pick either Jefferson Road or Malapartis, depending upon how bad Jefferson Road is backed up. So I do it all the time. It's a standard procedure. If I see red lights in front of me, as soon as I hit the Eden Lane, I turn left and then I take the alternative routes.
Are you doing that at rush hour?
Yes.
Because we all know how the Jefferson Road is at rush hour. It's pretty bad. Jefferson Road's pretty bad too at rush
Like I
hour.
said, it's either Jefferson or Ridgedale, depending upon exactly which way you want to go. I sometimes force Jefferson, even though I don't like it, so I'll go as far as Ridgedale and get over north to Parsippany, or where I want to go. I do it all the time. So, babysitting duties, babysitting duties.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. At this, oh, go ahead. Didn't I see you before?
Yeah. Ted Seekert. I just forgot something. I don't write anything down. The question is, if Lucen or Alcadere was still in there, would this be a meeting tonight?
Yes.
So this is already in the plan when they were there?
Would we still be meeting over this issue of the traffic on that section?
Yeah.
If Lucen Alcatel, that's your question. Yes. The conditions at Lucen Alcatel that prompted us at one point 15 years ago to put that second traffic light in was try to abate this situation. And that was a horror because traffic would back up between the two lights as well. But yeah, we'd still be talking about this is a regional fix for that area. This is not something that this has to happen. It's not something because the property changed hands. So.
I understand. All right. I agree with this lady here when she says the rush. There's such a rush on this thing.
Well, we've been at it for a couple of years now, so I don't know if we're rushing that much. But then we might be another year or so for all I know. But you know, we still have other avenues to explore. But we have to begin on the process of taking the steps necessary for the improvement, and it's going to take some time. So if the rush is the fact that you and I are in this room now and having this meeting, it's been a long time coming to this room.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no one else from the public who'd like to be heard at this time, I'll ask to close, and I'll have the Township Committee like to comment. I'm going to motion for close.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Member
Second.
Karamosca and seconded by Member Schleifer. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your indulgence, thanks for your comments, thanks for being patient with us. I'd like to just make one parting comment here myself before we ask the committee for an action, and that is that, again, I want to reinforce the fact that the Township of Hanover is not out to injure these property owners in any way. We know it's a very impassioned issue. If there's any way to resolve the issues, I tell these property owners, I tell you, Dr. Garcia, I tell Dr. Gianquente, I am still available to talk in a reasonable, realistic fashion, anytime, any place, anywhere. Having said that, if there's any other members of the Township Committee that have a comment.
Yeah, I personally want to thank each property owner, all the professionals, the residents of Hanover Township who've come out tonight to express their thoughts. We listen to you. We find your ideas, we find your thoughts, your suggestions, considerations. The township has been working on this for a number of years. This is not something that we decided that we needed to do in early January and decided we needed to rush this through. No, it's needed. I truly hope at the end of the day that we have what I would call a win-win situation. A win-win situation defined as where we promote public safety. Defined as we keep property owners whole financially. Defined as we support the relocation of these property owners and those valued practices which they have, because we want to keep them in our community. And in addition, lastly, I think the win-win is that we keep our taxpayers whole at no cost to them and provide a thriving 200-acre campus that will generate significant revenue to this township in the form of ratables that alleviate the burden of taxes upon our homeowners and our residents, and do it in a way in which we can facilitate movements on and off that site as best we can. Do we have all the answers today in terms of the future as to what the greater possibility could be at Algonquin Parkway? No. But we do have a plan to move the traffic on and off safely through that, putting in a rational T-intersection at Whippany and Parsippany, as opposed to what we lived with. Back in the day, I lived in Heritage Woods. I dealt with the traffic. I know what it was like. I don't want to see that happen today. And the thing I have to remember is that the traffic that I experienced back then, when Lucent was fully operational, has only grown. If you look at the Federal Registers in terms of their predictions, they assume traffic grows 2% per year. So if there were nothing happened, if Bayer wasn't coming to this town, or there was going to be zero development, you're probably looking at 20% more car movement since Lucent was in business. Now you take that base, you plus on 20%, arguably, and now you entertain 200 acres of total build-out. We got to do something. So that concludes my thoughts, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. No comments? Gentlemen?
Yeah,
George?
I'd like to add a point. I know that for Mrs. Frazier, the committee takes this seriously. They spent a lot of time discussing this issue. This is something that is definitely not taken lightly. You know, as a point of information, several years ago, 40-plus years ago, what we developed was called an Economic Development Advisory Committee, EDAC, as we all know. And the purpose of that, the charge they had, was to look at ways to bring development into Hanover Township, because with the loss of Lucent and all of the other, and several other ratables, we were hurting, okay? I could tell you, working on a budget at that time was no easy fix. It was very, very difficult. I think you have a couple former members of the board, on the committee rather, that were here at the time. And at that time, we were looking at ways that we could, attract good ratables into the township. And I think the EDAC folks have done a marvelous job. I mean, they have really gone all out and looked at ways, and this is how we ended up with a company like EDAC and several other companies within the township that have joined us. When we look at this entire traffic study, we identified a very serious problem. That's why it took several years, a couple of years to get it done. Identifying the problem but not reacting to it is not going to solve the problem. All it's going to do is compound the problem, because all you're going to try to do is put a Band-Aid on it. You really have to address the problem, and sometimes it's not going to be something that is going to be happy for everybody, but you have to look at the overall township as a whole, especially when you're dealing with ratables and people's feelings and people's homes, which in this case is what we're dealing with. And I think the township has really discussed this at length with the folks involved. And I also believe that the township has provided and offered a number of good alternatives. When we get through, whether we're voting on this ordinance tonight, is just to pursue it further. And hopefully we will end up with a resolve. But I compliment all the folks, the mayor, the deputy mayor, and everyone, and our attorneys, and all the folks that have been working on this, because they're really trying to do a job to benefit everyone involved, especially the homeowners. Nobody takes it lightly when something like this happens. So I'm hoping that we can end up with a positive resolve and continue to move forward for the betterment of all our residents and the betterment of Hanover Township.
Thank you, George. All right, there's no other comment from the committee at this time on 7-13, adoption, authorizing acquisition to purchase or eminent domain, if necessary, of real property known as Block 5801, Lot 2, Block 5801, Lot 5, for the improvement of intersection of Whippany Road and Parsippany Roads. So, motion on adoption?
So moved for the advancement of public safety and promotion of that intersection.
Okay, moved by Member Faramasca. Second. Seconded by Member Schleifer. On roll call, Member Schleifer? Aye. Member Faramasca?
Aye.
Member Capola?
Aye.
Member Bruno?
Aye.
Yours truly, aye. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we opened on that. We'll open one more. You want to open the general meeting? For the public? We'll close it, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, we will once again open the floor for comment. Motion from the Township
So
Committee
moved.
to open for... Second. Okay, open, all right, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the floor is open for any discussion. Hearing none, seeing none. Motion for close?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Do we got more to do now? Oh, I have two things.